Xbox, could they be getting ready to finally give us all of our games, no matter where we are playing, whether that's on a handheld, whether that is on your PC, console games everywhere? There is some interesting information here to go over. Atomfall, a game that has been very successful, and a lot of that success can be attributed to Xbox Game Pass. They talk about this, and they talk about how it has helped people discover their games. We got a bunch of updates for some big games that are coming out. The next Battlefield, which continuously looks like it is going to be impressive. Cronos The New Dawn, some more deep dive into the gameplay elements of the game itself. Then we have a bunch of information about the Nintendo Switch 2. We got the official pre-order date now, the new one for the United States and Canada. Pricing has changed in the United States, just probably not where you're thinking it was going to change. So we'll take a look at the changes across everything that is going to be launching when that console does end up coming out. Bungie gives an update on Marathon, and then we have a couple of other interesting things here to jump into. But before we do continue, if you enjoy daily gaming news content, staying up to date on everything that's happening in the industry, 8 a.m. every day, make sure to hit that subscribe button, share the video, like the video. It just helps get the videos out there for more people to see. And a lot of you who are watching, I see, are not subscribed, so I would appreciate it if you did hit the subscribe button. But for now, let's jump into it. So the future of Xbox is going to be what you are currently experiencing right now on your Xbox console, all of the games in there meshed together with everything on PC, and then the ability to go out and access other launchers like Steam, and all available in one singular place, which to me sounds like a very promising, very good future. Can be a game changer going forward, especially if you're buying an Xbox handheld. You're getting access to stuff like Steam. If Steam makes its way out onto the next Xbox console as an app or something, if it's basically just a Windows PC at this point, which they don't have any more of their custom Xbox side of things with developing games, it is going to change everything for the amount of content that you're going to get access to. And we are slowly starting to see the changes happen in front of our eyes, specifically when it comes to PC and the PC launcher. I do believe we will be getting the console games that we have on our Xbox on your PC, access to them in one way or another. And we have a bit more of a look at that. That's kind of signaling they are continuously moving towards that, slowly but surely. So this is an article here from Windows Central. It's going over the Xbox app on PC, which has had its issues. It isn't great. They continue to make improvements to it. So I think they will obviously continuously get better. But it's highlighted here that the way that the Xbox app displays own games is simply diabolical, and inexplicably recently it has gotten even worse, but there might be a good reason for this. For example, this is a picture you can see, Cult of the Lamb, an Xbox console game, has a button here that says content failed to load. And why is that happening? They say here, indeed, now by default, the Xbox app on PC has begun showing dozens of Xbox console games. However, the install button simply displays a content failed to load with a message grayed out and unclickable, which is exactly that. And what's worse here, the Xbox app also starts showing Windows Phone games as well, despite the fact Windows Phones is no longer with us. Angry Birds and other mobile games that are showing up on the store. You can go see those in the app itself right now. And there are Xbox 360 games like Banjo-Kazooie showing up, as well as Xbox One games that people would like to obviously go ahead and play on their Lenovo Legion Go's or Asus ROG Allies, wherever you're going to get access to Xbox. So many games in this ecosystem, whether it's in console or PC, are showing up here on the app, but it is saying content failed to load. And the speculation here is that now that this is showing up more and more, specifically with console games, is that Xbox is prepping here to get your console games available on the PC app, which would make all of those games available on upcoming Xbox handhelds, whether that's the ones coming from Asus and Lenovo and the third parties that are making these handhelds. They've already been teased by Asus, or whether that is going to be the first party Xbox app or Xbox handheld, you're going to get your console games too. They're obviously taking the user interface and they're developing it in a way that it can go across multiple screens and multiple devices. And if they're going to be doing that, they're obviously going to want people to have access to everything that they do own. So this to me signaling it. And I wonder if we're going to be getting some sort of big announcement here in June at the Xbox Showcase, where they're going to give more info about expanding out the overall ecosystem. Now, when it comes to console games running on PC, I think there will be a lot of games that you will be able to natively download and play, but there will obviously be other games out there where there's licensing issues, there's porting issues, things like that they're not going to be able to get access to. So if you own those ones, I feel like those are going to be utilized within cloud gaming, so you can still go ahead and play those. One way or another, I believe Xbox right now behind the scenes is working very hard to make sure that Xbox, no matter where you play it, is the same experience with all of the games that you do currently own. And to me, that is a very, very exciting future, especially if you tack on the fact that if they're just going the PC route with Xbox user interface, which keeps you in that ecosystem, you're going to get access to things like Steam, which then in turn gives you access to games that are on Steam. And it brings up that entire discussion again as to if PlayStation is going to go out of their way to try to block games, because you may be seeing people next generation on Xbox consoles, Xbox handhelds, playing first-party PlayStation games. And PlayStation is looking at that as something that they probably want to fight against. I don't even think they can unless they pull their games off Steam, which is another conundrum that they would be in, because Steam is going to be very important for selling copies. So all of this stuff, I think, will continue to unfold over the next couple of years, and it will be very interesting to track. But it looks like here they are slowly moving closer and closer to that reality by putting more console games onto the Xbox PC app. Now, when it comes to Xbox Game Pass, we know that it does wonders for games in terms of discoverability, helps people play games that they have never played before. Atomfall is one of those games that I think Xbox Game Pass has helped a lot. In fact, they talk about it here. The game has already announced they had over 2 million players, which is huge for Rebellion. I think that is one of their biggest successes ever. And the developers here are talking about working with Xbox and Game Pass and kind of just how it has helped the overall success of this game. This is an interview with GamesIndustry.biz and CEO of Rebellion, Jason Kingsley. And he discusses here Game Pass and working with Microsoft. It says here, it's been a huge success. Microsoft has been a fantastic partner to work with. They've really leaned in to helping us. They brought their skills and their scale to bear on our small project, and it's done really, really well for them. So they got a good deal. We got a good deal out of it as well. And then it continues on here to talk about Game Pass. And here is what he says about that. At least that's our theory. We don't have the data in for that. One of the biggest challenges for a company like us is discovery, and Game Pass has allowed for a lot of discovery for our game. And basically he is commenting on the fact that players have told their mates on social media that they found this game on Game Pass, really enjoyed it, and that other people should have a go at it. Yes, of course, they don't have the exact numbers as of right now. They don't have the data in for it yet. But I would bet that absolutely Game Pass has pushed this game higher than it would have gotten pushed if it wasn't on the service itself. Because you have a game like Atomfall, a lesser known developer, especially with other games that are coming out, people are going to be less likely to go ahead and pay full price to try it out. But with Game Pass, you go in there, you get hooked, you start playing it, and then you realize this is something that other people may not know about that they should start playing, and then you get that word of mouth marketing. And there's been plenty of examples of this. That Game Pass has done this since it has come out. So that is an interesting thing here that Rebellion here is going to look at it and probably consider that with their next games, probably tell other publishers and developers who ask about the success of Game Pass and whether it is worth it. But the reality is Game Pass helps get games out here that may have gone sunk if it wasn't for people discovering it. So that is cool to see. And I've found myself playing and discovering games I would have never played if it wasn't for the service. And Atomfall is a game that I knew about before it was even out. I did follow it with the marketing, but I'm sure if I didn't, I would have discovered it on Game Pass and it would have been something up my alley. So cool stuff there from Rebellion and from the Game Pass doing its work with getting more lesser known games known to more people. All right, let's move over here and let's talk the Nintendo Switch 2. We got the official announcement here finally for the new pre-order dates for the Switch 2. for Canada and the United States. And there are some pricing changes here in the US. In Canada, I believe it's all the same. The prices are all staying the same. They had initially delayed the Canada pre-orders because they wanted to align it with the US pre-orders. My best guess for that is simply they just didn't want to have United States customers buying the Canadian Nintendo Switch 2s because their pre-orders were delayed. So now they don't have to worry about that anymore. But now we have the pricing here for the Switch 2 in the US. The good news is the console has not changed. The pricing for that has stayed the same, but the accessories have all increased by about $5 or $10. You can tell they've increased those to kind of try to offset some of the tariffs and everything that are going on. And instead of increasing the pricing of the console, which I think would have a lot more people outraged, they decided to go ahead with the pricing for the accessories instead. But here is the official announcement for the Nintendo Switch 2. They say that pre-orders will begin on April 24th in the US. Pricing is the same, $450 for the Switch 2, $499 or $500 for the Switch 2 plus Mario Kart World bundle. Mario Kart World is an $80 game, and Donkey Kong Bonanza is a $70 game. They say here those will remain unchanged at launch. And then they go on here to say, however, Nintendo Switch 2 accessories will experience price adjustments from those announced on April 2nd due to changes in market conditions. Other adjustments to the price of any Nintendo product are also possible in the future, depending on market conditions. So this may not be the end of Nintendo updating their prices. They specifically put that in here on the US page, on the US pre-order page. If you go down, and to show that that is specific to the US, if you go down here and you change this over, we'll just do this one live. You go down here to Canada and you click on the pre-order page here. They don't have that statement in there. They just say that the pre-orders are happening on April 24th. Here are the pricing of the consoles. And they say, we apologize for the delay in pre-orders, and we thank our customers for their patience and share their excitement for the Nintendo Switch 2. So clearly this has to do specifically with US, what's happening, I believe, with the tariffs and everything. That's why they put that statement in there. And you have to ask yourself, will they end up changing the prices again? My estimation is they probably have many of these products shipped over to the United States already. I think they've already said that that is the case, and they're hoping that they will be able to sell those. And by the time those have been sold through, before they're manufacturing more Switch 2s in China and then having to ship them over to the US, the tariffs will be gone and everything will be solved, so they don't have to change the prices. If the tariffs are still there when that does happen, maybe there will be changes in the future. We don't know. But the good news is right now, if you have been planning to pre-order a Nintendo Switch 2 on April 24th, it is the same as what they officially had announced back on April 2nd. So finally, we can move past waiting for those dates. But when it comes to the actual accessories, we do actually have here the updates in how much each accessory has increased here in the US. It's about $5 to $10 per accessory. So Switch 2 Pro controller goes up $5. It is now $85. Joy-Con 2, the pair of the Joy-Cons, is increased $5. So those are $95. The charging grip has gone up $5. It's $40 now. The Joy-Con 2 strap has increased by $1. It is $14 now. The Joy-Con 2 wheel set has increased by $5. It's $25 now. The Switch 2 camera has increased by $5. It is $55 now. The Switch 2 dock set has increased by $10. This is $120 now for that. The Switch 2 AC adapter has increased by $6, interestingly, and it is now $35. A carrying case and screen protector has increased by $6 as well. It's $40 now. And then the all-in-one carrying case has increased by $5, $85 now. So increased by $5, increased by $10, and increased by $6. So those are the price changes that have occurred as the whole thing went down, where they stopped the pre-orders and then we were waiting for what was to come in the future for the Nintendo Switch 2. But April 24th is on Thursday, and they're going to open them up there. This thing will still sell out. It'll be no issue for Nintendo selling these out at launch. It'll be a big launch for them. And then we will see how well this does throughout the generation and how well it continues to sell, because it is more expensive, of course, than the Switch One. And I think that is obviously a major selling point for that one. Obviously, the portability and the games and everything. The Switch One was a great console, but the initial price of $299 for the Switch One, that's a big jump here to $450. Although I don't think the price of the console is that outrageous. I think it is in line as to what people are kind of expecting. It's more, again, the prices of the games and now the accessories that have gone up that people are going to be more confused about and potentially annoyed about and have to think twice before going to buy those things. We do have some good news, though, when it comes to the Switch games themselves. It looks like the Switch 2 edition of these games are cross-compatible with the Switch 1. So it's the same style of cart. And I guess you can actually put these into your current Nintendo Switch if you do buy the Nintendo Switch 2 version. And if you buy that in hopes that one day you're going to get a Switch 2, it may be a good route to go. This comes via Marvelous, publisher Marvelous, saying that its Switch 2 edition card will also work on the Nintendo Switch 1. Specifically, this is what they say. And this is good news for collectors as well as just having the full game on the cart. They say here that the Nintendo Switch 2 edition is a red 64 gigabyte game card that includes in full the Nintendo Switch game and the upgrade pack. They say there's no need to download the full game. Simply insert the card into either a Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2 console, and the correct version will launch automatically. And then they say, like most modern titles, there may be small updates or patches available at launch to provide minor fixes and improvements, but rest assured, the complete game is on the game card, ready to play from day one. So I don't know if this will be every single game, but this is specifically for the Switch 2 edition of Rune Factory Guardians of Azunma. But this is something that the Switch has an advantage of, and it's just, if you buy a game, a lot of these games are fully on the cart themselves. A lot of the games that didn't have that, they had a disclaimer where it's an additional download, and people are hoping that the Switch 2 is similar. We've been hearing stories that it may not be the exact same, but that is an advantage, and I hope throughout this generation with the Switch 2, when you're picking up one of the Switch 2 games, if you don't have an internet connection, it's fine. You can put it in and you can still play it because everything is already on the card itself. And it just saves you from having to download it and waiting for that and stuff. So good news here. And we'll continue to see if it goes across the other launch games that are coming out with the Nintendo Switch 2. All right, let's jump over here and let's talk Marathon, because it looks like we are going to be seeing a lot more about this game in the near future, as Bungie has given a major update on the game and on the closed alpha, and they have removed the NDA. So people who are currently playing it are going to be able to share and talk about this game on April 23rd and beyond. And I think this is a very smart move, because this is a game that they showed off and then there was a pretty negative reaction. People were kind of comparing it to Concord, and people were thinking that this game is going to fail right away, which I disagree with. I actually thought the game looks pretty good. The art style is interesting. It is from Bungie. I think this game is going to be successful. I think it will find its crowd. I don't think it'll come anywhere near being a failure like Concord. I think there's just a lot of knee-jerk negative reactions about pretty much every game that does come out. But I mean, we will see eventually. And now that they've taken off this NDA, we're going to get a lot more information, and probably people's minds potentially will change if they start hearing things that they do like about the game itself. But here is what they did say. They say, as developers, we believe community feedback and dialogue is essential to make the best version of Marathon. And they say, up until now, this feedback has come from closed playtest sessions. In the spirit of building towards that future, we've decided to remove the NDA from our closed alpha test. Everyone can share their thoughts, feedback, and footage, including streaming, starting on April 23rd. And with that being said, they're actually looking for specific feedback on the game, including weapons and gunplay, maps and survival gameplay, runners, including kits and build crafting, early game progression, including factions, contracts, and faction upgrades, PvP engagements against other runners, and PvE engagements against AI combatants. So I think this will be big. I think the biggest thing of all, though, will be the streaming side of things, that you're now going to see a lot of these big streamers and influencers and stuff being able to show the game live. That will be big for improving the game and probably building up more excitement and hype for Marathon. All right, one of my favorite looter shooters, probably the one that I've put the most amount of time in, is The Division and The Division 2. And we are getting some more DLC for this game, the Battle for Brooklyn. And now we know basically when this is going to be coming out. They say here that, as first reported by Insider Gaming, I think it was last week or so, the next DLC for the Division 2 is called The Battle for Brooklyn and is expected to release sometime towards the end of May. Specifically, they say, from what I've heard, it's not a big DLC. It's probably going to be the smallest one in the franchise, and they're planning to sell that one for $15 as well. I'm a big fan of the Division 2 and just the Division series in general. I will absolutely be playing this and jumping in and just running through it. I've gone through all the other ones, so I will be doing this as well. And then from there, we'll see where they go. And I don't think the Division 3 is coming out for at least a couple more years, so there will be more content and stuff to continuously play with the Division 2. And finally, we have updates for two big games here, more in-depth gameplay, feature analysis, and everything as to what we can expect when we finally get our hands on it. We'll start off here. We'll talk about Cronos The New Dawn, the one that we talked about yesterday, just some more information on gameplay. What can you actually expect from this game? We got a really cool gameplay trailer yesterday or 2 days ago. Highly recommend going to check out. I'll actually play it here in the background as I go over some of the news that we did get from this game. It looks like it is going to be phenomenal. Of course, this is coming from Bloober, who has done some great stuff in the past, but the game has been in production for 4 years. They say that combat is very much in line with games like Dead Space and Resident Evil 4 with limited ammo. You can see that in the trailer that it looks like it is like that. It's also inspired from the TV show Dark, time travel, 12 Monkeys, and The Thing. They say here that every weapon has a secondary charge shot by holding down the trigger. There's risk and reward in combat. The more enemies you kill, the more likely living enemies will absorb them to become more monstrous and powerful. They go on here to say newly merged enemies can also absorb the abilities of other fallen monsters. You can defend against that by setting dead enemies on fire so they can't be absorbed. Bitfire is a resource that has to be managed. You have to think strategically, as leaving an area with dead enemies everywhere can turn against you. There's a crafting system and the same resources you need to craft. Healing items also used are for ammo. The level design is akin to something like Resident Evil 4, some mini hub-like areas, looping levels to navigate NPCs with information, etc. And a setting is Navahuda, which translates into New Steelworks District, and heavy inspiration from Krakow, Poland during communist era merged with sci-fi. And Bloober, of course, is very excited about this IP. The game sounds absolutely phenomenal. It looks very good. It's the next one here from Bloober team, and you can see here on the screen. I'm pretty excited for this. Not the biggest horror game fan, as I've talked about previously, but I like Dead Space. I've played those. I like Resident Evil. I played pretty much every Resident Evil game. And if it's along the line of those two games together, I'm pretty hyped up for this game, Cronos The New Dawn. So cool stuff there. And then we did get an update as well for the next huge game that I'm very excited for as well, because I'm just happy to see this game back. And it looks like it is in great hands with Vincent Impella at the helm. And that is the next Battlefield game. In fact, we got an update here on the destruction and just how that's going to be utilized in order to make this game fun, immersive, something that Battlefield's kind of been known for, especially when you go back to Battlefield Bad Company, when they first showed off some of the destruction in that game and how wowed people were. I'm getting that feeling again here with this next Battlefield from some of the gameplay that has been shown off. But here are the details in regards to the destruction in this next Battlefield. So first of all, it says here, destruction is used to add further gameplay depth by transforming the environment for tactical advantages. They're designing destruction so that players can easily identify what can be destroyed or altered. An example here is once a wall takes enough damage for an explosion, smaller impacts like bullets also contribute to its destruction, so you can shoot your way through the wall. You'll hear whether your attacks are successful through specific audio effects. There's different surfaces that visually degrade after suffering damage before breaking down. Rubble caused by destruction now remains on the battlefield. So you're going to see rubble everywhere. And from some of the trailers or some of the gameplay that has been dropping here from the Battlefield labs, you see that when buildings are breaking down and falling and then you're running through it. It's pretty cool. They say that this creates new opportunities as well for cover and protection. The building's apple core as they break down, meaning rubble and debris from around that expose the core. So it breaks down kind of like an apple with that core in the middle. Examples of different types of destruction have been shown. The ability to actually destroy a wall, traverse through the building to reach the other side. Otherwise, you'd have to either run around the street or through staircases. So very cool there. In fact, there is a video here that I will show that shows an example of that. And they say that through thousands of pieces of feedback from players, the teams feel the gunplay is in a good spot, but there is further balancing to be done to different weaponry and their damage values. And they're also iterating on the right balance in movement speed, crouch, sprint, combat, rolling, vaulting, etc. So Battlefield, the next one here looks like it is going to be very, very good. I have so much faith in this one just simply because this is Vincent Pella, and he really hasn't let me down since, so I don't see why he would let me down now. And I hope this gets back to that point where people are looking at this game as a major competitor to Call of Duty. I think that needs to happen, because back when it was like Battlefield 3, I believe Battlefield 4, people were going back and forth between them, and it was just a really fun time to see comparisons. But here is the video of some destruction, the walls breaking down, and then kind of running through. You can see the rubble just dropping. This looks phenomenal. New cover popping up and everything, and then running through the building rather than obviously having to go around. Of course, this is still in the early stages, but to me, this destruction stuff just looks really, really good, and I'm very excited for it. But that's it for me. I'm going to end the video here, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.